Hey guys, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to be going over my first thoughts on Tighnari, how I'm going to use him, and what I think he's going to be capable of. Before we get too far into this, just play the characters that make you happy. If you love Tighnari, if you love Barbara, whatever character it is, if you love that character, just play with that character and enjoy your time playing this video game. Okay, first let's talk about what I think Tighnari's strengths are. And the biggest one being his elemental skill. So his elemental skill, you throw it out, it's a field effect that applies Dendro one time and then also taunts enemies. And then if you shoot, you have 3 charge shots which seek out targets, usually near whatever you shoot. So you can apply Dendro pretty effectively to that specific target. That one will go there, that one to that node, and then this one to this node, right? One thing I just want to clarify is that the field effect only lasts for 8 seconds. The cooldown is 12 seconds, but these charge shots, they last for 12 seconds, so you can hold on to them and use them as you need. You can just use them all at once to do some spread damage in a big burst, or you can save them and use them throughout the 12 seconds to apply more Dendro, maybe hit a target that you missed with the initial throw of the field effect. Alright, so let's just go ahead and show the elemental skill and the charge shots really quick. So if enemies are really close together, it is possible that you can get the homing to track onto 2 different targets. It is not very likely though, so most of the time you'll find that the homing is just going to automatically single out whatever target you shot near in the first place. So I did manage to get a very small clip of me being able to hit 2 different targets with 1 charge shot for the Dendro seeking bullets or whatever, and it's just not something that you're ever realistically going to be able to do, so just understand that his charge shots are going to be single target damage. Okay, so Tighnari's elemental burst works a little bit differently. So he's going to fire a bunch of shots and they're going to automatically track to different targets. If you see, that was a pretty large AoE that we actually hit all of those characters in. And so he's not as locked to single target as you might have suspected. So something we should understand about Tighnari's elemental burst is that it's actually 6 arrows that explode when they hit the target and do another 6 arrows. So it hits twice, and on that second time it actually hits harder. It's a very low energy cost and a low cooldown, so something you can definitely spam and use to apply a lot of AoE Dendro if there's multiple targets, or do good single target damage. A single target damage or AoE damage, however you look at it, is going to be a 734 times multiplier at level 10 for those second 6 shots, and then the level 10 first 6 shots are going to be a 600 multiplier, so altogether a 1300 plus multiplier, which is not too shabby for an elemental burst that you can spam every 12 seconds. One small disclaimer, I am talking about the base numeric value of his ability, right? So he doesn't actually need to vaporize or to melt to hit these huge multipliers. That does mean that other characters with lower multipliers can catch up, definitely, or even surpass him. But the point that I'm trying to make is that his base multipliers are very good, and so if he can take advantage of spread and quicken and things like that to do even more damage, it's going to help him out even more. So that kind of leads us into talking about Tighnari's other passives. His first passive, not as important, but when he does fire off a fully charged level 2 charge shot, which you get instant cast from his elemental skill, he does gain an additional 50 elemental mastery. That's not as important, but this is where it becomes important. So for every point of elemental mastery he possesses, his charge attack damage and his ultimate damage, his elemental burst damage, is increased by 0.06%. So the maximum damage bonus can be attained is 60%. So that actually does mean that elemental mastery is pretty strong for this character. We just talked about him having one of the best elemental bursts in the game, and it can give even better with elemental mastery. For artifacts, I'm just going to go through them really quickly. You can take a look at your leisure. But basically we're using the new elemental mastery set, and the reason for that is because we are trying to up his damage. However, notice I'm still going for attack when possible. I do think elemental mastery is very good for him, and I'm trying to get more elemental mastery where I can, but he still definitely needs attack, and so I'm trying to get him a good balance of both. I think if you invest too heavily in Elemental Mastery, you're going to miss out on a lot, but obviously there's going to be more damage calculations coming out about this character in the future as well. I'm also currently using the Skyward Harp. I do have his bow that I want to test at some point just to see how much more damage he can do with his charge shots, because that might be very interesting as well. I would probably also be interested in running the Battle Pass bow if you're a free-to-play character or player. I think this would actually be a pretty good bow for him, and potentially even stringless, because then you can double down on that elemental mastery and the damage bonus from the elemental burst and your elemental skill, which is less good, but that big burst damage is going to be helpful. So I think any of those would be a decent one. I think you can go with some of the completely free to play options, like there's a new crafted bow that could be okay with him, and then I think that even a 3-star bow like the slingshot or something like that isn't too bad. But these would be my first choices. Probably if I was going to go with a 4-star, it'd be stringless, and then maybe the battle pass bow. Alright, so let's really quickly talk about team comps. So this right now I think is one of Tighnari's biggest hurdles that you have to overcome, and I think the way that I'm going to use him is going to be like this. So for those of you guys that watch me on my Twitch stream and stuff like that, you'll typically notice that I like to have a driver character in this first slot, a healer or a support character in the second slot, and then these other 2 slots are usually my off-field supports. Maybe like a Xing Cho or a Yelan or something like that, right? Like those characters that can apply a field effect and then leave. And that's kind of how I'm playing Tighnari, is in that effect. He's going to pop out, he's going to throw his ability, I'm going to apply Dendro with his charge shots to anything that I maybe missed, and then I'm going to use his elemental burst, and then he's going back away. Same thing with Yaimiko. I'm going to throw her out, she's going to have her turrets doing electro damage, and then I'm going to switch back to Kaching to be doing more of my driving, or like my like running around and stuff like that, right? And then obviously Jean is just going to be here because she can just shred our elemental res on enemies and stuff like that. More electro damage is going to help this team do more damage, so that's going to be good for us. Alright, so I'm just going to have some background footage of me doing Abyss with Tighnari here. We're going to be using the same kind of team we talked about earlier, and again, you know, I just want to reiterate right now, I feel like his partners are kind of the biggest thing holding him back. I think for me, wanting to use him with Kaching, wanting to use him as Electro, Quicken, you know, Spread, that's probably the only way that I would realistically use this character right now. But I do think for what I wanted him to do, I wanted him to work with Kaching, I wanted him to work with Yaimiko, characters like Fischl and stuff like that, that I don't really get a chance to use all that much now. I think that he's going to work fantastic, and hopefully you can see some of that through these Abyss 12 clips. Sorry, not Abyss 12 only. There's also other floors of the Abyss. Anyway, the point being is that in these clips, we're going to be using Tighnari as our Dendro applicator. So he's going to be putting Dendro on everything. You know, if we throw an elemental skill and we miss somebody, we're just going to charge attack them, apply Dendro, and move to the next target. And then switch, because we're really going to be relying on Kaching's damage and Yaimiko's damage for those big aggravate hits, right? We really want Yaimiko to just be like pounding everything with Electro and then hitting him. You know, maybe we'll get a little bit of spread damage here or there, but as you can see earlier, we don't really have the highest levels of talents or even gear on this character yet. So we're not really looking too much at Tighnari's total damage. I do think, like he said earlier, his multipliers are quite good, but we'll have to ultimately see what he's realistically capable of doing later on down the line once he has proper gear and a better talent setup and stuff like that. Because we may want to have more time in this team with him being on the field. Maybe we switch out, you know, Fischl for Kaching and we have him on the field more often or something like that. But there were times here when, you know, I would occasionally use my elemental skill and I wouldn't even need to charge attack anybody. And so I would just switch, or I'd use his elemental burst and then switch. Obviously, it's not going to be the most optimal way because you want to use his elemental skill, you want to shoot out a shot, and then you want to use out his burst. But like I said earlier, his damage isn't going to be that high right now, it doesn't have that good gear, etc. But I think he did a really good job, and I think, you know, we've only been playing for a couple of days and we're already able to use him to this extent, right? Like, of applying, you know, Dendro to everyone on the field, whether it be from his elemental burst or from, you know, additional charge shots plus his elemental skill. Regardless, we're keeping that that quicken buff on these enemies a lot and getting extra damage for our Kaching and for our Miko, which was the whole point of this team. Alright, so the hard part, right? Do I recommend Tighnari? No. I don't think anyone should necessarily pull for this character unless you like him. If you like the kind of playstyle you see here, and you're kind of into that hot swap gameplay of that, like, you know, switching back and forth and, you know, managing the turrets from Miko and things like that, then I would say, yeah, like, if you're gonna join and if you're gonna enjoy that playstyle, go for it, you know. But do you need him? No, absolutely not. You don't really need any character in Genshin Impact. That's kind of always how we feel about everything. And realistically, like, you can probably make an easier, like, more functional team with Dendro Traveler and Kali if you really want. And obviously, like, we're in here using Kaching in the Abyss, right? Like, I love Kaching, I really do, but we all know she's not meta, right? Like, she's not Hu Tao Vaporize good. I don't think she ever will be. This may be as close as she ever gets. But my point being is that, like, if you lose a 50-50 in the future when Tighnari goes on the standard banner and you get him off the standard banner, I think you should be happy about that. Like, he'll probably be one of the best, probably at least top 2 in my opinion on the standard banner, right behind Jean, because Jean I think is just like one of the best units in the game. But I think that he is a great character, he's very fun, but do you need him? No, I don't think so. And is he gonna do good damage? You know, I would say the jury's still out on that, but ultimately I think he has potential. Obviously, you know, we'll leave it to the Genshin math guys to figure out his, like, actual damage potential, but I do think that, like, you know, for me in this slot, he's actually really fun and as an enabler for my electro characters that I don't get to use that often, right? So yeah, I've been enjoying playing with him immensely. So in the future, I will be exploring, you know, like, what his damage output's gonna look like with a later endgame build. You know, better talents, better gear, etc. You know, maybe we'll explore, like, which bow we like better on him, for example, or, like, you know, maybe we'll try a Dendro set instead of the Elemental Mastery set just to compare. But yeah, we'll take a look. We'll see how we feel about stuff later on, as far as his numbers go. But like I said, as a general Dendro applicator, I think he's actually really good. And in some cases, I would say he's potentially better than the Traveler or Kali, right? Because he does have the ability to spread Dendro in one big AoE, but then also hit, you know, outlier targets that may have been on, like, the other side of the map, for example. So yeah, I think that for his role, I'm really excited to play him some more, and we'll check him out more. Thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Witches